Hello and welcome to the Supernatural Track here at Continual. I'm your host, Gail Martin, and tonight this is part 2 of season arcs in Supernatural, and we're also going to talk about those really cool title cards. But before we get any further, let's let our wonderful panelists introduce themselves, starting with Elektra.
I'm Elektra Hammond. I'm a writer and an editor, and I have been watching Supernatural since that very first episode aired.
All right, Lola.
My name's Lola Laracy. I'm a writer, and I've been watching Supernatural since that very first episode aired.
Well, and I'm the oddball here because I didn't get a chance to watch the show until halfway through season 11. Fell in love with it. Binge watched 11 seasons in 4 months so I could start live tweeting season 12. And the rest, as they say, is history. So season 8. Now, we had a lot of stuff going on in season 8, but this is where we ran into the tablets, and that is what we are seeing reflected in the title card is the glyphs from the tablets, and we see some of the letters in the names Supernatural change. We get those glyphs that are on the strange tablets, and we get a little bit of whispering, so it sounds very creepy. But what would you say were the most important elements of the story arc in season 8? Elektra?
Well, the escape from purgatory, and therefore the introduction of one of my favorite characters, Benny. He is way larger than the number of episodes it turns out he's in, which is actually very, very few episodes. It's like 5. And the trials. This is the season where they discover the tablets and therefore go through the trials to seal hell.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore they end the season with trying to capture Crowley.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot, isn't it?
That's a lot. There's a lot going on there. Yeah.
Please tell me if I'm wrong about this. I might be wrong about this. Is this a season where all the angels came down from heaven?
At the end in Sacrifice, yeah.
I loved that scene. You saw all these like falling stars, and it's like, oh, how pretty. What is that? They're all angels. And you're like, O-S-H-I-T. Oh, like mind blown. That was just a really cool scene. And that set up so much because you're like, oh my God, all the angels are they're going to be mad. They're going to be all down here, just like the rest of us Joe Schmoes. It's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, the purgatory sequences were very well done at the beginning. We got to see where Dean was, and of course, Sam can't find him. Has decided that he can't find him, and he's gone off to actually try to survive. Meets the vet, Amelia. Not one of my favorite story arcs in the series. I still, my headcanon still says that he did some looking or had some reason that he didn't look. I just can't believe Sam didn't look.
That story isn't super fleshed out.
No. Well, and Jared has even said he didn't like the arc with Amelia because Sam would have looked for Dean. I can even see, like I've seen in some fan fiction, where it's as simple as, I thought you were in heaven and I wasn't going to drag you out. That's acceptable.
But there was no body.
No.
There can't have been enough pieces for him to think that Dean had blown up.
Well, and they had just spent the last season and a half talking about purgatory. So, you know, it's like if you're looking for your car keys and you can't find them anywhere else, they shouldn't be in the freezer, but you look anyhow. And overlooking purgatory after they'd spent all that time talking about it did seem a little, uncautious.
It appears he didn't do a seance or ask anybody or make an attempt.
And that does not seem like Sam. Of course, he had just, Crowley wasn't talking to him. Crowley told him that you were well and truly on your own. And Crowley had his own reasons for not talking to him. Cass was gone.
Okay,
Bobby,
so is it possible that there's a witch involved somewhere that we've never found out about? That either Amelia's a witch, or that there's a witch involved in there that set a spell on either Sam or Amelia to get them involved, and we just never knew about it.
that makes sense to me. I also like the fan theory that, and I've heard this from a number of people, that early in the season when we see Amelia, everything is kind of sepia toned and a little glowy and a little out of focus. And there's a theory that said that it was supposed to be a hallucination, like Sam's actually in a hospital somewhere with a head injury or something, and he's hallucinated the whole Amelia thing. And then at some point, the writers changed their mind and made it real. That to me also makes more sense than the Sam just didn't look, is that he got himself hurt and he's been in a coma and his brain has invented this whole thing. I like that better than the way they wrote it, but we'll never know.
If they were going to hurt him, why didn't they have him hallucinate the hot bartender from previous seasons?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Because he and Amelia, I never thought really had any chemistry. They just didn't.
No, I really liked that bartender with him.
Mm-hmm.
She was fun.
Yeah, she was. Of course, we got a lot of Kevin in season 8 with the tablets, and we got a lot of Crowley. And that scene in the barn, that last episode, Sacrifice, I think is one of my favorites in the whole series. And Dean talking Sam out of completing the trial is just a beautiful scene. So we really got some good meat on the bones in season 8.
Kevin is a really, really great character.
Mm-hmm.
But with Kevin, we also get the scribe of God on the other side. His opposite. He can read the word of God. Therefore, we have the guy who wrote down God's word. And he turned out not to actually be the nicest of fellas, as it turned out. Although I admire his love of books.
Yeah. Curtis Armstrong played that role to the hilt, which it's a real credit that he made me hate Metatron as much as I do. But that is a tribute to the actor for bringing that character very much to life.
Curtis Armstrong chews the scenery in every role he's ever played. He's a fabulous actor.
Yeah. And he just ran with that role. Lola, what are some of your other thoughts on season 8?
One of my favorite episodes ever is As Time Goes By. And I believe that's season 8, isn't it? Season 8?
Mm-hmm.
Could be getting confused. But I love it because we get to see what happens with Henry and the men of letters, and he gets chased by Abaddon. And it's just so heartbreaking when he realizes that he abandons his child. And of course, Dean and Sam are heartbroken when they realize that their father wasn't abandoned. And there's so much regret because so much of their life was shaped by John's, feelings of abandonment, and he kind of passed that on to the children. And imagine if that had never happened, what they could have all been men in letters and, wear ascots and look like Fred from Scooby-Doo. And, it just imagine, but that wouldn't be them. It wouldn't be the personalities that we know.
But I credit them with that little detail of I'd ordered a journal with my initials on it to write things down, a journal like that one.
Yeah.
And it turned out that John had taken it and written down all of the things he learned through his trials as a hunter. And that tied him to his dad, and it tied him to the grandchildren, and it tied together that loop that, well, John felt abandoned. He carried something that was his father's his whole life.
And he filled up his life in that journal,
which his dad then read.
Yeah, It was very appropriate, very full circle.
That was beautiful, beautiful thing that they wrote into that episode. And yeah, that's one of my favorite episodes as well.
Oh, I would agree, totally. And it's interesting. I always wondered what became of John's mother and how she dealt with her husband's parent abandonment. And that is something that I don't know whether we'll get to keep it. I don't know whether they're going to completely undo the alternate history that they've given us in the Winchesters, but we get to meet Millie Winchester, who turns out to have been the person who was the actual car nut in the family. John was never home. And it's her garage, and she's the one who taught John how to be a mechanic. So that, you know, I don't know if we had to keep that history, but it was certainly much better outcome for her than I thought might have happened being abandoned with a small child.
Of all the things we've gotten out of the Winchesters, Millie and the way that they showed us her husband
Mm-hmm.
are two things that I adore.
Mm-hmm. Because Gail got to play the role again as Henry.
Yeah, just the completing the circle again and giving us a little bit more, you know, showing the love of family
Mm-hmm.
was just, you know, just another gut punch of it's really, and he didn't get to go back and raise his kid.
And he planted a protective plant at the garage and told her never to take it out, that was his gift. And it turns out that it was actually a magical protection that has been, you know, keeping them safe all this time. So yeah, they gave us some really nice pieces there to blend that out. And I don't know what we'll find, whether or not this is all.
He would have been a credit to the men of letters if he survived.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And then we have that heartbreaking scene in Sacrifice, and season 9 opens with Sam in a very bad place. And our main title card has the flaming wings and a blinding white light and the screech of an angel's true voice. So I mean, they're really starting to put major thought into these title cards. Where's our story arc in season 9, Elektra?
Oh God, season 9.
Gadriel.
Season 9 is trying to get Sam recovered from having done all of the trials and bring him back in what may or may not have been the terrible decision of allowing him to be possessed by an angel who lied about who he was. And, you know, and Dean trying to do his due diligence while also trying to keep his brother alive.
Mm-hmm.
And what may or may not be good decisions.
Yeah. Lola?
What
What's
I
that
remember,
season
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
I've got notes, and these are the notes from when we first did this. So I might look and go, what was I talking about? So it looks like we got a lot of Kevin Tran, who I love. Sam and Dean are having trouble. What else is new? Metatron wants to rule heaven, and I think Metatron killed Dean. Didn't he kill Dean at some point?
At the end of season 9, yeah.
Yeah, and then don't we get demon ! Dean?
Mm-hmm. As
Yeah.
that just in the very last episode. So yeah, there's a lot going on. And we've got Sam in his head at first, going to this cabin in the woods where he meets death, and he wants to make sure he stays dead. And then Dean and Gadriel trick him into saying yes. And Dean, you know, when I rewatched it, Dean was being as careful as he could, given the time constraints, to check this guy out, check this Ezekiel out. And he calls Cass, and Ezekiel says, yeah, he's a good guy. And he met several times over the course of this, you can see that Dean hates lying to Sam, hates withholding the information from Sam, knows that this is a dicey thing to do, but Ezekiel manipulates him, and he's just so desperate that he falls for it. So then, and this is the last season where we really have the boys at odds about some stupid misunderstanding where, you know, if somebody just locked them in a room for 15 minutes after they quit throwing punches, they could have actually talked it out. But Dean, of course, goes off and gets the mark of Cain. So we get Cain in this season. Any thoughts about Cain and the mark and Dean's decision to go do that, because why not?
Well, I love that actor. That's Odmanson, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love him. I know him from Psych and Jericho, and I just love that dude so much. And even if I don't always like the characters, there's something about him that I like. I think you always hear about behind the scenes stuff with him, and he always gets along really well with his co-stars.
Yeah.
You also get, because of that, you get Dean and Crowley buddies hanging out and, you know, picking up chicks and drinking. All right, so maybe not so much the picking up of the chicks by Crowley, but, you know, they're hanging around together and they're doing the bar scenes and they're having fun. And this is clearly what Crowley always wanted, was somebody to hang out with. You know, in another life, he might have been, you know, he might have been trying to be a hunter, or he might have been the awkward third guy running around with Sam and Dean. He really wanted to bring their pal.
And Crowley's ordering drinks with umbrellas. I mean, he's not
It's
the
so
marquee
cute.
guy.
Well,
I love it.
But, you know, he's at least comfortable enough in who he is.
Well, and the former king of hell, you know, if somebody tries to tell him about his umbrellas, he's going to shove it up there, boop, 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 you know?
Well, you know, when you can explain yourself as used to be Crossroads Demon, you know, used to be king of hell, he has nothing else he has to do.
And he doesn't have to prove anything to anybody.
Yeah. Well, and we also got 2 episodes with Dorothy of Oz. And one of those which we just rewatched on Monday,
Yeah.
Slumber Party even had a title card with a Wizard of Oz type title.
Yeah.
And that's one of my all-time favorite episodes, because it's just so inventive. And I wish they'd have kept Dorothy around longer. And I wish, instead of killing Charlie off in season 10, they'd have just had her go off with Dorothy for an unspecified period of time in Oz. But that was, I think, one of the most inventive episodes.
I'm a huge Oz fan going way back. I have multiple copies of all the original books by L. Frank Baum. And the idea that he'd been a man of letters fits right in. He was a writer. He was semi-reclusive. He was one of those nerdy guys in the corner. He would have fit right in with those guys. And it was the right time period. He was writing those books in the 30s and 40s. He would have been at home in the bunker.
And I love the idea that it was sort of real. I mean, you know, the books were a mask for what was really happening with his daughter. And of course, you know, him being a father, he made the daughter, you know, pigtails and a dress and a little dog and, you know, just really sweet. But in real life, she, you know, rode a motorcycle and she had riding pants, and I'm pretty sure she and Charlie had a thing. I'm just saying, I felt it.
Absolutely.
It jumped off the screen. I was like, you go get you some. So,
Oh, yeah. Well, and I thought that the actress who played the Wicked Witch, for not having any lines, did an amazing job portraying that character. I just rewatched it and I thought, wow, this is good. This is really good.
Yeah.
Well, it helps that we all know who she is.
Yeah.
You know who the Wicked Witch is. You know that she's wicked.
Yeah. And that was even more wicked. I mean, we know the movie, and yeah, she was kind of creepy. She had green skin, but she still looked like a person. But this, she looked more like a haggard ghost, you know. She was just even scarier in this than in the movie. I was like,
In the books, the Wicked Witch of the West is far more formidable And
Okay.
you have to think back to when you were young and the first time you saw the flying monkeys, and they were way scarier.
Mhm.
That is, I don't understand why that was a children's movie. Those flying monkeys are scary.
Yeah.
I was like, "Ah, they're coming at me. Oh, it's very scary.
When,
Well,
when they're yelling and screaming and running, that's because they're scared.
Mhm.
And then in There's No Place Like Home, we get Dorothy split into good and bad, and we get Charlie, good, timid Charlie versus um uh, you know
Revenge filled
Hellhound.
Charlie.
Charlie.
Uh-huh.
And there's a memorable fight scene between Charlie and Dean
Uh-huh.
that Felicia Day has said is one of the highlights of her career.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and it's just another great episode. So we get a couple of episodes of Dorothy. Unfortunately, we also lose Kevin Tran. Well, comes back as a ghost because everybody does, but
Yeah.
and that's a really pivotal moment.
He comes back in Apocalypse World too.
Yeah, it's not the same person though.
But that guilt over being Gadriel's vessel while Gadriel killed Kevin was a pivotal thing in this season, and was really rough on Sam being hijacked like that. So if we saw, besides just violating bodily autonomy for Sam as a result of Dean's decision, Kevin getting killed by Gadriel was another
And with
sad.
the eyes, yeah, and the eyes, the way it was, I was like, no, everybody you fall in love with just gets a gruesome death. I'm like, no. But I always tell people, if they haven't ever watched Supernatural, I'm like, don't get too attached to any of the characters, because
Or don't give
nobody's
up.
safe. Yeah, they might come back. May not be exactly the same, but they might come back.
Yeah. What else stuck out for you in season 9? Because we had Cain and the Mark of Cain, and we have Metatron running around. In fact, Metatron even also got his own title card with the wings and the whoa.
And I actually have a picture. I put screenshots of all the title cards that I like, and I have the one with Metatron, and it's beautiful. You see the white wings with the blue tinge to it and the name Metatron across it, and then it kind of spreads out to like more blue and then kind of like purple. Oh, it's just gorgeous. It's like a stained glass window.
Yeah.
Prettier than his personality.
So at the end of season 9, we see Dean with the Mark trying to fight Metatron, and while he gives it a good shot, Metatron wins, and Dean dies in Sam's arms, telling him that he's proud of us. And that's another real heartbreaker. And then Sam brings him home, lays him in his room, goes to summon Crowley. Crowley doesn't come because Crowley's already in Dean's room, telling him to let's go howl at the moon. And we get those black eyes. And that is such a tremendous season finale, last 10 seconds reveal. Which means we start season 10 with Demon Dean.
Yeah.
And the title card is light, but with a demonic black smoke and a pentagram. So we've got Dean as a demon on the loose, Sam trying hard to find him. We get Rowena in season 10 for the first time. There's a lot going on. So what are your favorite season 10 moments? Elektra?
Well, Rowena is just one of my favorite characters too. She is just made of awesome, and the way they introduced her slowly, just first we find out she's just a witch, and then we find out how powerful she is slowly, and then the slow reveal that she's related to Crowley. That's just super fun. And then we have all the fun moments with Death, who is very prevalent in this season, right? I've got the right season up, don't I? My notes are a little skewed for season 10. but I thought we saw a lot of death this season.
We did. And we also had a record number of title cards. We had a very supernatural special with a lot of darkness and clouds. We got kind of a blood in liquid sort of thing for one of them. We get
Broken
a
glass.
window shattering, broken glass. We got the word supernatural that blows up with black splatter. I mean, we got some really cool.
There's a pretty one. I got the screenshots. There's a really pretty one. The background is almost like a tannish white color, and then the angels are like coming out in 3D in this copper color. It's really pretty.
The versions for the main title cards for the 5th, 6th, and just accidentally pressed something and it went away. For several of the seasons showed up in modified formats. So they were tying some things together for us in the background. But what else from the plot of season 10?
This is the season that we meet the Stein family.
Yes.
Because we're trying to get rid of the mark. And that means we're bringing in everything we possibly can, and rumors of the grimoire they have lead us to find them. And they turn out to be a little bit more formidable than expected, except, you know, the first blade can plow through just about anything. But every time Dean uses it, Dean becomes less Dean.
Yeah, and that fight scene in the Stein mansion is just an amazing fight scene when he takes them all out and he says to them, I'm going to get off this table and kill you. And then he does. And that was really amazing. Of course, we also lose Charlie.
Yeah, that was after they had killed Charlie. So they deserved no mercy, no nothing. They were all going down. Charlie was family.
Yeah.
And they felt like she was their responsibility, even though she wasn't. She was very independent. They still had that, you know, she's our kid sister feeling.
And of course, between the Mark of Cain and losing Charlie, and then Dean blamed Sam for bringing her back in, we've got another wedge between the brothers, but it's not quite as contrived as some of them. And of course, Sam is right there going, I don't care what it takes. I don't care if I burn down the world. I am going to find a way to get rid of the Mark of Cain. And then we have that scene in the Mexican restaurant with Death. So Death comes back again. Dean fixes him Mexican food. And we have that memorable scene with Dean almost being willing to kill Sam, but in the end killing Death, which brings out the darkness.
Which is where we find out that how to kill Death, which becomes a critical thing to know. That there is a way to kill the incarnation of Death. Also, we discover that the universe runs just fine without Death.
Which is interesting. You would have thought that
without rebirth, you're stuck. But without Death, things seem to run okay.
Yeah. And then we just get a new Death.
We manufacture as it turns out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty impressive that he killed, I mean, it's almost like an elemental. I mean, Death, you know, it's one of the original entities. That's a pretty big deal. I think
around a while.
I think at one point, didn't Death say something like, I've been here before everything? He had this big speech, I remember, about how long he'd been there. It was really quite chilling.
He'd been around longer than Chuck.
Yeah.
That he and Chuck couldn't remember who was older, but at some point he would reap God.
Yeah, that's what he said. And now, of course, we're like, ha, no, you won't.
Didn't exactly work that way, but it was close. So we go out with Sam and Dean stuck in a mud puddle, and the darkness and we don't know what the darkness is, except it sounds pretty bad. And of course, the title card is a white light followed by the word supernatural in gold over a black background. And we get to see the smokiness and the darkness. So this is Amara's big season. What stood out to you?
Well, with me, okay, so this, you said this is where, are we on season 11 or still on season 10?
Season 11 with Amara.
All right, now I was very disappointed because when we first saw the darkness and we heard the darkness at the end of season 10, you know, you had all this whipping dark wind around and you thought this is going to be monumental. This is going to be like, oh my God, you know, like a million tornadoes at one time. This is going to be epic. And it turns out to be another hot CW chick. And I mean, I like her. She's fine. She's in The Mandalorian. She's great in The Mandalorian. She's fine. It's just, I was kind of hoping for something a little more epic and not just another chick. You know, I was just very disappointing, I thought.
Elektra, what did you think?
Well, and like Lola says, it was yet another person that got born and grew up quickly. Like instantly aged to adulthood because, well, we need somebody who can age to adulthood quickly because working with babies and kids is a pain in the neck.
Mhm.
And adults are more fun because, you know, the boys are adults. So they did that pretty quickly. And Amara was actually, I mean, she was kind of fun and it was entertaining watching them come up against something they could not beat, no matter what they did. Not with magic, not with guns, not with smacking the hell out of her. There was just no way they were going to beat her. The only thing they could do was negotiate.
Mm-hmm.
There was just going to be, you know, negotiation over what's going on, and you know, we're gonna have to get Chuck to deal with this. And the whole season is we have to come to understand that there must be light and darkness in balance, and we're going to need both of them. And, you know, at the end, we have Chuck and Amara going off hand in hand. And she's like, here, and here's something for you, Dean, because I like you so much. And you brought everything together so nicely and you freed me. And we get Mom right at the end of the season, toss status before it ends. And Dean's dealing with that, and somebody kidnaps Sam, and the season ends.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things also with that is that I thought one of the best episodes was when Amara rolls that killer fog into the small town, and Sam's trapped in the hospital, and he's getting the black lines up his throat. And he figures out, with a hint from Billy, who must have wanted him to survive because she gave him a hint on how to purify and get rid of that. But there's a scene where the fog is coming in and Dean is with Sam and it's killing Sam. But of course, Amara likes Dean, so she's not going to kill him. And you see Dean actively trying to breathe in the killer fog. So if Sam's going to die, he's going to die. And then he yells at Amara and it goes away. So it was an interesting dynamic there. For once, we've got a hot woman that Dean doesn't want, and he can't quite figure out how to get away from her.
For a little while anyways.
Isn't that also the episode where there were the two kids they find? And they're like, they're good. Let's just get them out of town before this catches up to them. And they're really not so good. But they let them loose on the world too, because this is just, Amara was insidious, but on the other hand, she liked playing Keno. So
everybody has, you know, a good and a bad side.
Trying new things. She was big on trying new things.
She also liked hot tubs in Iceland and masseuses.
What girl doesn't?
She must have been great for girls' night out.
She would be fun. And she could take you there instantly. I bet money wasn't an issue for her.
Just poof, you there. Well, yeah, and when we end on that cliffhanger with Tony Bevel being in the Men of Letters bunker, you know, for all its wardings and locks and everything, that place had more through traffic. But Sam comes back, Cassis, we see the whole soul bomb thing with Dean. Not the most original. They've used that soul bomb thing 2 or 3 times. But Dean doesn't have to blow himself up to save the world. Sam doesn't know that when the sun comes back on, he's grieving. Dean really thinks Dean's dead. And he really doesn't give a flip if this stranger shoots him because Dean's dead. And then there we go. Which leads us to season 12. We've got Sam as a prisoner. Dean's got Mary. What do I do with her?
Well,
Dean comes back and finds Sam and off to the races. What were you going to say, Elektra?
Well, Dean has grown up Mary, who he first has to start with. Yes, I'm the son that you left, who was, 5 years old when you died. And it's me, all grown up in my 30s, and convince her, really, it's me. And this is the year, and you've kind of missed a lot.
And of course, she's still in the nightgown of death. So yeah.
I'm looking around right now and realizing that technology has jumped so much that, I mean, the laptop I was using 5-6 years ago, compared to the one I'm using now, that laptop has a built-in CD drive. My current laptop does not, because they no longer build those in.
Right.
If you want to drive, you have to carry around a separate one. And just our technology is changing so rapidly. I mean, 20 years ago, I had a flip phone and I loved it.
Now desktop computers aren't towers anymore. They're little squares.
Mm-hmm.
It's the whole world has changed. And now think about how long Mary's been gone and how much the technology has changed. And
Yeah,
how
she picks up
lost
fast.
she would be. And how long it would take her to catch up.
Yeah.
She'd be just completely, she came from a time where you looked up phone numbers in the phone book.
Right.
And you went door to door and asked questions. And
you had
now
4 TV
everything
stations.
is on the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well,
she does pretty well though. She never really seems like too thrown off.
That's because the script says she isn't totally thrown.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. That's true.
But it's a real shocker.
Well, and Mary's a shocker in a lot of ways because she's not at all what Dean had remembered of her or had been given from John's memory. And of course, Sam's is all secondhand from John and Dean. And Mary's not a good cook.
She's tough.
She's a good fighter. She has no trouble fighting. She's not a great mom.
Mary's a great cook. Mary apparently was great at going to get takeout and put it on the table.
Nothing wrong with that. That
When
takes
you're
skill.
5, you can't tell the difference.
Yeah,
You
that's true.
can't
You
tell
don't.
the difference between mom opening a can of spaghetti and heating it up and serving it to you and her making her own.
Mhm.
And this is Dean. I mean, anything's great cuisine to him. The Roadhouse Diner hamburger is great to him.
He actually turns into quite a foodie towards the end there. He nests. He
Yeah,
cooks.
that's true. That's true. Yeah,
He gets there.
that's true.
But we get to see, and it was an interesting twist, but I still have not completely forgiven Mary for this, is she's not the mother that they thought she was. Why she needed to take so much time to find herself. As a mother myself, I'm very critical of, but we did get to see her exploring the British men of letters, kind of thinking that they might be the solution to all these monsters and then being betrayed. We got a great fight scene when Sam leads the raid to stop the British men of letters. We also get to see When Ketch tries to kill them in the bunker, we get to see Dean with that grenade launcher finally.
Finally. We get to see lots of socializing and drinking.
Mhm.
Oh, and on the other plan was Lucifer is loose.
Mhm.
Lucifer is trying to procreate
Mhm.
as he travels from host to host, trying to become more powerful and trying to make a Nephilim.
Mhm.
And some of my favorite scenes there are absolutely, without question, Rick Springfield as Vince Vincenti rock
That
star,
was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
possessed by Lucifer.
Yeah. That was a terrific
That
episode.
that is just so much fun. Because
Mhm.
I mean, you had an aging rock star to play an aging rock star, caricature of himself. It's sort of like the version of themselves the guys played in The French Mistake.
Mhm.
That is Rick Springfield, just the version of himself that people think exists but doesn't.
And I really give him kudos for not playing a role where he was glamorous or pretty. I mean, he was rotting flesh for quite a bit of it. And then that takes a lot of guts. Yeah, that was great.
He doesn't need to play a role where he's pretty. He really is pretty.
Yeah. And he's Rick effing Springfield,
Yeah, he can do whatever he wants. I think he saw this as fun
Yeah.
because it looked like he was having the time of his life.
He loved it. Well, he's also an actor too. He's been on stuff before. He was on a soap opera back in the day.
Well, he was on a soap opera, but he also did a crazy TV show. He did the first version of Human Target,
Oh, I didn't know that.
and he starred in it.
I did not know
He
that.
headlined it. He was fantastic in it.
Okay.
Go look that one up.
I'll look for that.
Before another soap star from Days of Our Lives starred in it.
Mhm.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it seems soap stars are destined to do that.
Well, and we spent a lot of time with the British Men of Letters. In fact, the title card for this season is a flaming Men of Letters sigil. And we got to see the Brits, and we got to kind of see. I loved Sam stepping up to lead the party for the raid, with Dean kind of behind him, encouraging him. And at first Sam goes, "My brother and I," and then he kind of clears his voice and says, "I called you here." And he kind of steps into that leadership role. And that is a beautiful thing to see.
Well, he foreshadowed that when he was leading the hunters from Apocalypse World.
Yeah.
You could
And
see
looking at
where
Dean
he
Michael.
was.
Yeah. When he led them looking for Dean when he was missing with Michael, and had the whole grief beard and everything.
Well, and that's also a scene where they pulled out all the stops and asked every hunter they could find to join in the raid and forgave all past issues. Yeah, I know the last time you saw us, you killed us, but we're back and we forgive you because this is really important.
Although I was very satisfied that Roy and Walt were casualties of the raid.
Well, yeah.
It'd make my bitter little heart happy.
Well, they weren't very good hunters.
No, I think they asked them there to be cannon fodder. And yeah, sure, they forgave them. Let's send them in first.
Well,
It's an honor.
The great stuff where, as part of that whole raid, the cult turns up. It turns up that the Men of Letters have stolen the cult.
With Mary's help.
But it's not useful because they don't have any ammo.
Mm-hmm.
And Sam is like, well, here, I have the recipe for it. Now, make something because we need this. We've got to deal with the alpha vamp.
Yeah. Well, and we got, we got the alpha vamp back again. We got the Apocalypse World hunters still there, and Mary dealing with that. And we got Kelly Klein's arc and the Princes of Hell. So we got to meet Ramiel and Dagon and Asmodeus. And, you know, it's interesting, when I watched it the first time, I didn't like Kelly Klein. I just thought she was very, I thought she made a lot of dumb decisions. And when I
Okay.
watched it again, you kind of see how, okay, she might have been rather naive about some things, but that intrinsic goodness really made a huge difference in raising Jack to be the god he became.
You need that kind of pure innocence to offset the Lucifer. You have to
And-
go completely the other way. Huh.
And of course, season 12 is building toward what's going to happen when this baby is born. Kelly knows she's not going to live through it. She leaves a very poignant video for Jack. And then in that last episode, when Jack is born, Kelly dies, Lucifer comes back through the rift, and Mary and Lucifer go through the rift. Cass is dead. We've got a mess on our hands at the end of season 12.
Well, and prior to that, the rift has opened and we discover Apocalypse World.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a little bit of experimentation there,
Mm-hmm.
back and forthing, which becomes important. Because
Yes.
Apocalypse World,
Yeah. And we get to see.
I guess I've got my timing backwards. Yeah, Apocalypse World hasn't happened yet in this timeline. Sorry.
Right. But we have it. We have glimpses of it because of the rift. So they've seen a little bit of it, not as much as we
Right, but
get.
the rift happens right before the end of the season, a couple of episodes before it's, and they jump in and check it out and discover it's not a really nice place. And they
And
meet Bob.
Mm-hmm. And they find out that Apocalypse World is the world without, if Sam and Dean had never been born.
Yeah. Mhm.
So that's something
It
to
just
chew on.
freaks them out a bit, but
Mhm.
okay.
So then season 13, we have a gold inverted cross, and it looks like Jack's eyes with the gold circle. And we also got a bonus title card for the Scooby Natural episode.
I love that so much. I've got the picture of it with the Scooby Natural is all like that. I love that.
So season 13, what were the big plot arcs?
Well, season 13 is all about Jack, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep, and Apocalypse World.
This is us learning about Jack, and he's growing up, and we're trying to figure out what's going on with the various worlds. Well, Chuck tries to figure out what he's doing.
Right. And Dean starts out grieving because Cass is dead. Mary has been pulled into the Apocalypse World and he's sure she's dead. Sam keeps trying to have hope that they can at least find Mary. And so we go through a good bit of the first part of the season with Dean just being kind of having given up and Sam saying, no, we're going to find something. So I love how the brothers tend to, when the chips are down, balance each other out.
And apparently Apocalypse World is a much smaller place because they go through the rift and they're like walking across Ohio or something.
Mm-hmm.
I never
But
thought
it
of
doesn't
that
have
one.
it doesn't have cities anymore, so that's way
Yeah.
easy. I keep
Well-
thinking they should have gone through there with like motorcycles or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it made sense. You have your ride ready. You can, like very Mad Max.
Well, and we get Catch back. We also get AU Charlie as well as Bobby. And we get AU Kevin. And we meet a really badass version of Michael who had killed his Lucifer. So he and our Lucifer start squaring off. And Lucifer, of course, wants to get back because he's got a son being born.
Well, and Lucifer thinks that he is the baddest thing going and that, he can take any Michael anywhere.
And
And,
this Michael, gives him a run for his money.
In Apocalypse World, Michael is pretty damn badass.
He's scary. And no matter who's embodying him, he's scary. He's like, he dresses nicely. He's very erudite. And it's like, I am Michael. And I am very scary.
Yeah, the actor plays it very, very well.
Very much.
Well, he's killed anything that gotten in his way.
Right.
And they live in a world where just angel patrols come down and kill all the humans that can't give them good information. And they torture everybody else for the information and then kill them.
Yeah.
Very scary world.
They
I would
live
not
to
wanna
just
be there.
wipe everybody out.
Mhm.
They'd already put out all the demons.
Yeah. So Sam and Dean are on a mission to bring Mary back, and
Jack.
Jack.
Mhm.
And of course, in the meantime, Sam gets killed by vampires and brought back by Lucifer,
Mhm.
which is a really difficult episode. And they manage to get back out, but nothing ever goes as planned.
Well, and somewhere along the way, they end up in the bad place.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's traveling back and forth between the worlds. And once they get out, they want to go and pull out everybody. They want to bring out Charlie and Bobby, and because Apocalypse World doesn't seem like a good place. So they want to pull out Mary and Jack. And while they're at it, they want to rescue Charlie and everyone else. And they take a wrong turn and end up in the bad place.
And this is also where we had the pilot for Wayward Sisters, and we had the girls that we get to know who end up living with Jody, Patience, and Claire, and all the rest of them.
They all the women mobilized to go rescue the boys.
Yes. And we got Scooby Natural, which is one of the highlights of the whole series, in my opinion.
I loved it so much. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cute.
So at the end of season 13, at the end of season 13, we're in trouble again because everything is going bad again.
Well, Lucifer's back. Crowley's dead now.
Yeah.
And Gabriel has sacrificed himself to no avail.
Again.
Again.
Dean and Michael make a deal, huh?
And now we're in trouble because Lucifer's loose and he's looking for Jack.
Yeah. So going into season 14, the stakes are high. We've got black wings in the title card over the word supernatural. And we've got alternate Michael on the loose who wants to burn down our world just like he burned down his. And the angels are back. Lucifer's back. We're not really sure what's going on with Chuck, but he's not much help. And then there's Jack, who's the wild card. And they're not entirely sure what they're going to do with Jack. But we've also got Dean dealing with Michael, and we've got at the end of season 13, of course, Dean sacrifices himself to save Jack and Sam, and we've got Dean taken over by the Archangel Michael.
So Dean is now, beginning of the season, Dean is now missing because Michael has taken him off to go do Michael things, which turn out to be creepy and scary and nothing we want to know about.
We've got three fears.
Monsters. And Jack has been drained of his grace and he's sick. So we're in a bad place at the beginning of the season, a really bad place.
So we spend a good bit of the season trying to stop Michael and get Dean back. and all of the issues around that, and locking him in Dean's head, and Dean goes off and decides to do the Malik box. And then they get hope again with when Donatello wakes up, and Sam delivers an incredible fight scene with Dean about, you can't give up. That's one of the most fraught emotional moments out of many, many in the season, but beautiful performance from both of them on that, you'll have more cards tomorrow speech. And so then we've got Jack near death and back, then stopping Michael, then out of control, and we lose Mary. And then what do we do with basically, we've got a loose nuke in the bunker. His name is Jack. And that's so painful for the boys because they really have become attached to him.
He's a powder keg.
Yeah.
Giving off sparks.
Any other thoughts on season 14?
We got Nick. I thought Nick was very interesting because it's Mark Pellegrino, but it's not Lucifer. It's his vessel. And when we think about the humans that, are the bodies that demons possess, we think, oh, poor people. They're such good people, I'm sure. Sometimes they were kind of dicks. Sometimes they weren't very good people. But you feel for Nick because he had his wife murdered, his baby murdered. And then, all he remembers is going along for this horrible ride, being Lucifer. And he wants vengeance. But yet he's still got the vestige of Lucifer in him. He really is damaged goods, which is the name of the episode. He really is messed up. And I just really, the whole time I was like, I don't think Nick needs to be a person in this world. I really think that he needs to, just go wherever Lucifer goes. And, I felt bad for him, but he was definitely messed up.
Yeah.
I thought it was a callback to, God, there was an episode in season 7 with the demon possessing a guy named Jeffrey. And then they thought the demon had come back, and it turned out that no, Jeffrey really just liked killing people. The damaged goods. I think that Nick was troubled by the fact that he discovered that he really liked killing people. And I don't know so much that it was that Lucifer had done that to him, but that he just discovered it was there within himself.
Yeah, I think one of the points of Nick was, I don't remember when we first met him, but I think he wasn't supposed to be a saint to begin with. Well,
remember, when his wife and child were killed, he was off drinking in what was supposed to be an Elks Lodge, although there isn't one anywhere near Creek. Or as he put it, he was off getting hammered. His wife and son were getting killed with a hammer, and he went to track them down to give himself some peace of mind. He tracked down what happened to them, and he asked the neighbor, and the neighbor couldn't give him peace of mind, so he killed the neighbor.
Yeah,
and then he got a lead from a newspaper writer, and he went after the cop that had been there, and he killed the cop with a hammer. After the cop gave up the name of Braxis. So he knew it hadn't been the cop's fault, killed him anyway.
Yeah, he was on a path of rage. And he wasn't seeing logically anymore. He just wanted to lash out at everybody. And was that Lucifer's influence, or was he just kind of a loose cannon to begin with?
And he didn't seem to want to be killing. And at some point he gets to the point where he says, well, I want to be possessed so that, I don't have to worry about good, evil, all that stuff. Just have Lucifer do it.
Give himself up. He wants to give himself back up.
And, Lucifer was, okay, well, if you can get me here, I'll do it.
Yeah.
That was super not fine, but
very
okay.
sad. Very sad.
But
So
on
it's-
the other hand, this is the same season that while Nick is running around being damaged and killing people,
Mhm.
well, we got Lebanon. So
Yeah,
we
excellent.
got family dinner.
We got family dinner with the Winchesters.
Yeah.
And of course, by the end of season 14, Mary is dead. Cass is back. Jack is kind of still a loose cannon. We've dealt with the Michael issue. And
Chuck is back.
Chuck is back. And Chuck is now the big bad, along with Billy. We have some issues there with the empty and Billy. And the title card is a flash of light in the shape of Dean's amulet that explodes. And then we see an escaped soul from hell, and angel wings, and an inverted pentagram. They really pulled out all the stops. And then finally the word supernatural. So we know something big's happening here. And how do you stop God? How do you fight God?
Well, Billy, who becomes Death, thinks that you should team up with her, but apparently she had her own agenda. So
Yeah.
that wasn't really the answer. But, you know, they took the most powerful being they had, which was Jack, and they took him on this journey that Billy had directed him that made him so very powerful. And then they realized that Billy was being a dick about the whole thing and did not go along that route.
Well, and of course, at the end of season 14, Chuck is trying to force the ending that he wants, which is, Abraham and Isaac and killing the son. And when Dean and Sam refuse to go along with it, Chuck kills Jack and says, this is the end. And now we've got them in yet another kind of alternative timeline where everybody, all the creatures and all the monsters they killed are back again. And they've still got Chuck on the loose.
Well, and those first couple of episodes of season 15 where they're trying to clean up the mess that he caused in that last episode.
Mm-hmm. And of course, we get Belphegor, which is Jack possessed by a demon. And we also have Rowena back in a very big way. For a while.
Where you work your way up to the third episode, The Rupture.
Mm-hmm.
Where they've been trying to take care of this little tiny town, which is just a microcosm of the bigger problem. And Rowena helps them solve the problem. But in doing so, they lose Rowena. And the rupture closes. And the souls are sucked back. And the problem is mostly solved. And some people are still out, but mostly things are solved, and they just have to deal with the greater problem of Chuck.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out later that one of the side effects of that is Rowena is now Queen of Hell.
And I love it. I think she went out
Awesome.
on her own way. I think she went out in her own way because she's Queen of Hell.
She leveled up.
She did. She'll love that because she has power, but she's become fair. She's not the horrible person that she was when we first met her. She's actually has some kind of empathy in her. And so she decides that, you know what? No more crossroads, none of that stuff. If you set your own path, whether you go to heaven or hell. If you're meant to go to hell, you'll go to hell. So she kind of democratizes it in a way. And I love it.
And she adds receptions. And
for all the new souls.
Well, and it's such a perfect ending after we'd seen Sam face off with that ambitious crossroad demon to say there will be no new king of hell, and anyone who tries has to go through me. And that's exactly what happened with Rowena, and there was a queen of hell.
I love it. I felt like she was born to play that role.
And then Chuck comes for them.
Yes.
And Chuck takes away what he had given them for 14 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And, their gift
Their
fact
luck.
they never tripped. They never got sick. Everything always worked out no matter what. They always won in the end. They died, they came back. He took that away. And that epic journey of the last like 5 episodes, it starts with the hero's journey, where they go and they get their luck back and they convince the goddess Fortuna to give them the luck of heroes just by being themselves.
And we get to see Garth use some C4 to blow up a monster, cage fighting ring. And be a dentist. And in this season, we also get Mrs. Butters and a little more insight into the men of letters who weren't squeaky clean. But she gives the boys, such wonderful holidays, at least until she tries to kill them.
Well, and the night shirts.
So cute.
And the
And
lunch
she
bag.
packs them lunch when they go out vampire hunting.
And Dean's face when he's looking at the sandwich and he realized that she wants to kill Jack, and he's like just so heartbroken. He's like, I really wanted that sandwich.
Yeah.
I know the feeling.
Well, and we get the Rich Chesters
That's right.
as Chuck shuts down all of the alternate universes and the worlds start closing in.
Yeah. And now we've got Cass's bargain coming due with the empty, that, if he's ever happy, then that's when he'll die.
And we can all cry because that's one of the most heart-wrenching scenes in this entire series, is when Cass calls the empty and says, I'm ready, I'm happy.
And takes death with him. Of course, we also before this saw more of Death's Library, and we also saw Rachel Miner come back as Meg in The Empty, as the entity, which was just great to see her again.
I love her.
Well, and the lovely sequence of, well, now we know that if you kill a Reaper, they become Death.
And poor
So
Betty the Reaper.
Billy is Death for a while, and then Betty is Death for
1 second. Yeah.
And we go through a quick sequence of them.
Okay, here, read this. Okay,
And then
that gorgeous ending sequence of, we knew Chuck would know whatever we planned to do, and we couldn't trust Michael because he's a dick. So we had plans within plans within plans.
Russian nesting doll.
and Chuck they didn't kill Chuck. They left him powerless
To be a regular human.
like the song, just a slob like one of us.
Exactly.
And Jack was bonded with Amara, and then they went off to heaven, and so the Winchester's adopted kid is now God.
Yeah, I know he became God. How
They
cool
got
is
a
that?
dog.
Yeah.
And dog.
Miracle, I think his name was. Yeah.
And we got to see a little bit of life after Chuck.
Right.
Now, of course, fan theory, and I'm sticking to it, is, and Jared has said he thinks there was at least 5 years between 19 and 20 where they just got to be themselves, maybe go on some hunts, clean some things up, but the big bads are all gone. And then the finale, and ripped all our hearts out.
And I had not been expecting, people have been asking me, like, do you think they kill one of the boys? And I'd be like, no, because I'd heard that there were going to be, sequels. There were going to be other shows. So I was like, they're not going to kill the boys. They're going to have other shows. Of course they're not. And so I, when that happened, my mouth just dropped and I was like, what's going on? I don't understand. So I was like, not prepared. I was not in that headspace at all.
I was worried because Supernatural loves its mirrors, and in Swan Song, Sam died and Dean got the normal life.
Yeah.
And then in Carry On, Dean died, Sam got the normal life. But I even have a t-shirt that says no barn without a bridge.
Ooh.
The fact that they didn't leave us with the barn scene, that we got to see not only Sam having that normal life and his son Dean and Blurry Woman on the porch, but that the boys got reunited in heaven.
And Jack changed heaven, so it's not you in a, you're camping whatever cabin for the rest of your life. You actually get to homestead, be with people that you love. And it sounds awesome. I'm like, I'm ready. Let's do that now. And he gets a car.
And that Sam's wearing the outfit that he was wearing when Dean picked him up from Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
So many beautiful callbacks in those last couple of episodes that were a love letter to the fans.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, and then at the end, they're together in heaven. So it has been quite the journey. Elektra, you've been quiet. What did you want to add on season?
I'm
season 15?
I'm biting my tongue. Don't worry about it.
Okay. All right.
Well, I loved one of the things, it was just so beautiful, just so like spiritual, because I think it was Bobby or someone said to Dean, time works differently here. And so you see Dean driving the Impala, and then during that ride, the rest of Sam's life happens, and then Dean comes back and Sam's on the bridge. And it's like, so all you have to do is ride around in your Impala and you come back and someone you love is back. I love it.
And of course, there is a fan theory, and we'll see in a couple, one or two more episodes here, that the Winchester's prequel is Dean keeping himself busy in heaven while Sam's living out the rest of his life.
Interesting. Well, but I got the impression from this show that he just went for his ride on the Impala, and when he came back, Sam was there. That's the impression I got.
Yeah.
So
So
I
we
kind of like it like that.
Time works differently there.
Yeah, that's the point they made. Yeah,
Like,
Well-
it may have been a long ride.
it was a very long ride. Yeah, he stopped at
it-
Krispy Kreme.
a long, strange trip and a wonderful trip and a wonderful adventure. Any final comments as we wrap up season 15 here?
I mean, I wish we could have gotten a couple more seasons, but maybe later.
The boys talk about it every time they're together, that there will be more.
I
And
hope so.
I think that if it is in their power to do so, they will. And honestly, with some of the tumult at the CW right now, I'm kind of glad that
That's
That-
another panel, Gail.
that is.
Yeah.
But I
That's
hope
a different panel.
so. All right, folks. Well, we have this ran a little long, but we had a lot of important things to say. So thank you so much for being here. And before we close, let people know where they can find you. Elektra?
You can find anything you need to know about me at untilmidnight.com. And I'm on Mastodon at Elektra at Wandering Shop.
And Lola?
My name's Lola Laracy. I finally got my website working. It's not pretty yet, but at least it's there. LolaLaracy.com, and I'm lots of places online.
Okay. GailZMartin.com, MorganBryce.com. The social media is a variation of those. So if you spell them right, you'll find me. But most of the time, I'm here in Continual. So thank you both so much for a fantastic recap. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. There will be more Supernatural on Continual. So we'll see you online.